It's amended. Okay. Thank you. Have we done that? Yeah. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $45,000 to repair the 1994 John Deere tractor for the Department of Public Works. That is what we're all about. Article 13, to see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of not more than $25,000 to dredge pilot pools so the gate can be opened. Majority vote required, not recommended by the Board of Selectmen. The Selectmen voted 1 yes, 1 no, 1 abstention. This is in addition to warrant article number 2, the operating budget. Do I have a motion? I have a motion. Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded that Article 13 be placed on the ballot as written. Do I have discussion? Walter.
Sorry, I'm listening about trucks. I don't know anything about trucks. I don't know much about the Bible. My name is Warnick, Walter Warnick. I've been here 30 years. And I think that if we contribute anything to the Bilas Pool project, it's a bottomless pit. And it's not it's not the sludge that we're going to have to move. It's money out of our pocketbooks because there's no end to it. There are people in this town that remember the swan boats. And there must have been people in this town that went to Boston and they saw the swan boats and they wanted to bring them back to Alstead. And we had a multi-millionaire, Mr. Vilas, so he brought a swan boat. He gave money to the Vilas Pool. Now, as I say, I'm here 30 years, 6'4" of me, and I've been to the Vilas Pool 4 times. There's a Carolyn at the Vilas Pool. The Carolyn had been worth thousands of dollars donated by Mr. Vilas. I'm sure most of the people here don't even know there's a Carolyn there. I would doubt very much that you get much music from it. But when I first moved here, you could just walk in and play the music. When my brother came to visit me, he'd go in and he'd play Russian folk songs. I mean, it was lovely. But I'm sure that's a little kaput. It's a little wrong. No. If the sludge came to us at a greater velocity because of the flood, and we got a dam under the bridge, which precludes it from going further. Plus, there's a pocket. We used to have swimming lessons and things like that. There's nothing really that you can do to swim in there unless you clean it out. But I mean, it's an impossibility, really. And we're going to just start by trying to remove the sludge. And we can't do that without doing something to the gates under the bridge. We open up the gates, and we have to do something to the bridge. There's another warrant to look into the repairs for this bridge. We may get a grant, but we may not. And it's more money out of our taxes. I'm one of these people whose taxes have gone up. I'm a retiree. I come to all of the meetings. I don't know about fire trucks. I don't know about other things like that. But this Vilas Pool, it's a ridiculous thing we should make. I also object to the fact that the people that are involved with rejuvenating the Vilas Pool are putting up signs in proximity to the town saying that there are musicals going on there on occasion. Fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But they're selling refreshments. Now we have two marginal stores. We have the Alstead store, which is certainly not a big profit maker. We have the Drew's store, which is even a lesser profit maker. Now, my tax money, my Alstead tax money is that is selling things that might very well be bought locally. I don't think we should be competing with people who are trying to make a living and who help us in other ways, who donate to various activities in the community. So I would urge that we reject, as one of the wise men of the three up here who opposed it, I would urge that we support the opposition, that's ridiculous. But we should support not dredging this, because we're going to open up a can of worms. If we do dredge it, instead of 6 years or 5 years, if there's no other flood coming in, we're going to have a time frame of 8 or 9 years, and the sludge will be back again. And it'll go against the doors. And the doors will have to be costly. And then that will knock the bridge. So what we can hire somebody to supervise the thing, have a picnic area. I urge you to vote against this, because if there's one thing that's going to raise our taxes, this is what
Peter, Walter, I love you, man. I'm so glad you're here because I just love you, man. So this is where first, the thing I agree with you is the one wise man, because that was me. But let me tell you why, okay? First off, the first thing that we have to recognize here is the New Valley School Committee and all the hard work that they put in, putting into Valley. All the money they spent, Walter, all the money they spent was given to us by Mr. Vilas. They work out of the Vilas Trust Fund. There was no tax money that went into that building. That's important to know. They've got roughly $600,000-700,000, and they can only spend the
Can I make a comment?
Not yet, because I really need to finish this, okay?
Sure.
Now, so thanks to them, everything's looking better than it ever has, and thanks to the Commish family for keeping it as long as they did before the Valley School Committee, because they do their thing. Next, the reason I went against this is we have to do this. We have to, we'll see. We have a letter of deficiency from the Department of Environmental Protection, the Dam Bureau, okay? The reason I went against this was because this was a one-time permit. So basically, pull out the muck, we let the water go, the state comes in and says, yeah, the dam looks fine. The reason I'm opposing it is because it's a lot of money for one man in Concord to come and go, yeah, it looks fine. If we can secure a permit, which is what we'd like to do what you're saying. We know it's August, we know there's a big storm coming, open the gate so we don't get the muck buildup. If we can get some sort of long-term maintenance permit, then I'll be all for spending this money. That's the only reason I went against it, because it's a one-shot deal just to make the state happy. I think at some point, as a community, and I'm glad everybody was so civil, we didn't go after each other as hard as we have in meetings in the past few weeks here, but we really have to push back against the state and the feds at some point and say, you know, I understand your point, but we really can't continue to spend money on things like this. This is my small stomping of the feet, saying I am not going to support spending money just so you can look at this dam, which we all know is perfectly fine. Okay?
If I could just have a short rebuttal. We all revere Mr. Vilas and his family and his goodness to us. And I live right up the road from the Vilas homestead, the sacred monument that was used to change oil on logging trucks and all during our 250th anniversary. But Mr. Vilas also gave a bridge over the Connecticut River. And it was at its time, it was a marvel. But there reached a time when the bridge wasn't able to hold traffic and people. So they closed the Vilas Bridge, the state of Vermont and New Hampshire, so there was no transportation over the Connecticut River, and they built another bridge. So
Walter? Walter?
Amen. So this was a
you're saying over there. I understand we need pushback, but there are other issues involved. A lot of them are safety. We've already been through floods. We need to be able to open that gate so that we can control the water and the muck and the rest of the stuff. And I think that it's important that we keep the good graces of the state, so that when we need funds for projects that they're willing to spend money. We need to open this gate, guys.
Ron?
Yeah, I got this letter of deficiency here, and you guys know about it, but I went and visited DBS about yesterday, or day before yesterday. And it does seem to be what they're looking for is the ability to do exactly as described, to be able to open that gate and let water out in anticipation of a flood. And also that same gate could be helpful in, say, annual flushing in order to drain the silt. And they were talking about that in an affirmative tone of voice the other day.
Put it on paper.
Yeah, no, not on paper. Well, we made some progress. So, if this is appropriated and it's not spent, that's the question. I have a question as to whether, number one, whether you really actually have to, at this point, do the dredging, or whether you need to have an engineer look at the feasibility of it, or whether that's been done. The letters.
We already got an engineer. We've been slow walking this for a long time, quite honestly.
Right, I understand.
It's been years.
So, and secondly, whether there might be some invention to get everybody's brain involved that might be less expensive than like some sort of miniature coffer dam that we might allow getting down in there, doing it without dredging the whole lake and using hydraulic dredging to just let the river wash down. I don't know. I have no idea, but
The only dredging that is proposed is like a bucket width against the dam. This is not the same as dredging Vile's pool like we used to do to allow swimming. This is just the minimal thing to get at that socket that opens that gate. That's all.
okay. And then I'm back to, maybe somebody would be able to, I'm looking for an inventor here to come up with a less expensive. But I think if we can allocate this money without having to spend it, I think we can go ahead and do that. And then if an invention, if a cheaper idea comes up, do it that way. Anyway, it's something that has to be done.
One mile, White Road. When was the last time that gate was open? And also, do we know that the gate is going to work once it gets pumped down? Or will it be sitting there and not be able to do anything about the gate? Is there something that we know doesn't work?
So how we know right now?
I don't think anyone had a good answer to that.
I worked for the White Department in Hampton for years. I've done construction over the years. If you don't maintain your gates, it's like a water system. Sometimes it top breaks off, and then you have to switch the whole gate. It means you take the gate off the dam, repair the whole thing.
Steve?
Steve Blake. I've been on the pool committee again. Thank you for your acknowledgement of us that working hard. It's right, the dredging is going to be done just to relieve the gate. How long has it been? I'd say 10 to 15 years. That is an inappropriate maintenance on the gate, I will admit. And why it hasn't been opened, we don't know. But once you get that gate open, I do believe the mechanics, the way it's built, it has not deteriorated those iron gears that operate that gate coming up. And we just have to drop the pole in and wrap it back up. When we do, we're not only going to release what's there, we're going to be taking needed to fill their truck. But I can't remember, 20 years ago, they did the exam on the dam, and the report came back. The engineer then said, you've got to leave the gate open. You do not get sludge every year coming in if you've got it open and it's running straight through. That's what happens now. We back it up. The trees that fall above it, all the mud that's in, washed away from the edges of the land do come down in the spring. And this will alleviate all of the trees being able to float downward. So we really do need to open that gate. And it's going to prevent flooding because right now the dirt is within 2 feet of the top of the dam.
Other comment?
Yes, I like to vote amend this article zero.
Have a second? Moved and seconded that Article 13 be amended to see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of not more than $25,000 to dredge Violet's pools to the gate. Just reads that not more than $0 to dredge Violet's pools so the gate can be opened. Is there discussion on the amendment?
I have a discussion
Yeah.
because there's a question that I wanted answered. Now, if we dredge this out and free the gate and the gate is open, there's a few questions. Is the gate going to remain open and for how long? Is it going, does the EPA or whoever DES is ever in charge of this want it left open? Are they going to allow it left open or are they going to mandate? What? There's a lot of unanswered questions here as to, you know, is that muck going to be allowed to flush downstream by the EPA?
The terms of the permit we've received for this one project are ambiguous, and our requests for clarity have fallen on deaf ears. But the status quo that is represented by this line item in the warrant opens the gate and leaves it open pending further direction from the dam crew.
From who?
The dam, appropriately named the Dam Bureau. I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, but frankly, they're not as responsive as we would like.
They never are.
We have been, I think, fairly responsible in slow motion trying to meet the conditions of this letter of deficiency, which is, after all, a judgment on the town.
So the $25,000 going to open it, you don't know if it's going to be allowed to be left open. We really are in limbo.
Correct or Rama?
What happens if we don't approve the money?
Eventually, if we don't adhere to the conditions of the letter of deficiency, we have one on the other dam as well, eventually they will threaten us with daily fines until we comply. We as a town, not we as a select board.
Right.
I think that possibility is extremely remote, but it is out there, and that's the way the statutes are written.
Bruce.
Just a couple of observations I've had over the years on the pool and the dam. And to answer part of Ann's question, there may be other folks in here that attended a meeting at the Shed Porter Memorial Library when the Department of Environmental Services came. And this was about a year after we had been fined $41,000 because we dredged Violet's pool. Excuse me, we over-dredged our permit. And they fined us $41,000, and I listened for quite a while, and finally I said to the individual, I said, in my feeble little common sense brain here, I said, we have a dam which acts as a filter. I said, muck and tires and rubbish and trees and everything came down and got trapped in there, and we paid honest dollars to clean it out. You would have preferred to see it go down the river, the way I understand it. And they said, that's right. So they fined us for cleaning out their trap. The And when you're cleaning it, they don't want any mud to go through the dam and down there, but they don't mind if it goes down on its own. The other thing, I keep hearing about flood. There's it's within 2 or 3 feet of the dam now. So any water that comes down the river goes over the dam and comes down. If we could go up there and physically pick the dam out, even without any mud in there, with the canal we have through town now, it wouldn't damage one blooming thing. When the dam was put in, there were 2 sluiceway cylinders in the dam with big wheels that they opened to relieve the water in the dam. Eventually, they wore out. Fred Carmen, to the best of my knowledge, went in there. God forbid, I hope the EPA doesn't know about this. He blasted a hole through the dam. About a 6-foot hole, and that's what the gate closes off now. But if that gate had been open and that sluiceway had been open in 05 when the water came down through there, it wouldn't have made an iota of difference. I went to Violet's Pool at approximately 10 o'clock that night. Water was coming over the sidewalk and running down 123. I turned around and got my butt out of there. But the point is, it wouldn't have taken 10 minutes to fill the volume of Violet's Pool, and it still would have been coming over and down. So I don't buy this. The dam is a danger to the town, because it isn't a flood danger in my mind. Just some things I've observed over the years.
Elizabeth?
I just thought I'd make everybody aware, because I don't know if everybody's aware, but we've been told there is 100% state funding to take the dam out.
No.
To throw money out on it. Just saying, so everybody knows that that's an option. Get rid of the flood problem, get rid of every problem, just so everybody knows there's 100% funding to take the dam out.
I've been selectman a long time. I was elected in 2000. Jim O'Brien put me in charge of dealing with DES and the fine, which was $48,000 for overdredging Violet's Pool. I have been all around this issue for years, and I have asked the question precisely, is there money to take out this dam? The answer is a flat, definitive, and definite no.
You told me at that
I did not tell you any
Elizabeth,
such thing
Elizabeth, please wait to be recognized.
because I have asked the question, I have been told no, and I have always known it was no, and I have never told anybody anything else.
Elizabeth?
You told me at the meeting, at that selectmen's meeting, you said, the problem here is, we have zero funding to help fix the dam, but we have 100% state funding to take that dam out, because that's exactly what they want. The state wants no dams. That was your wording.
I disagree. I did not say that. I said there is an issue. There are people in the world who would like to see all dams like that removed. That's all.
Okay, we have another comment.
I think I can help with this. I think there's a set of circumstances where you both can be almost completely right. When we were working cheek by jowl with FEMA after 2005, we discovered that there is a hazard mitigation program that at that time would fund partially the removal of man-made structures. As far as I know, that program continues to exist. At that time, it was 80-20. That was 2006. And it's run through the feds, not the state. So let's relax about that, and let's concede Elizabeth's point. There may well be money out there to take the dam out. If that's something the town wants to do, we won't decide it today, but we can sure talk about it this year.
Joy?
I can, doing all that I know, I can speak a little bit to Violet's debacle. I mean, after the town was fined, and I was on the Conservation Commission early in 2000, I think it was 2002, we saw this, Howard Weeks was part of it, as a huge problem. The state is not talking to the town is afraid to talk to the state, you know, this whole thing. So we invited the Dam Bureau and EPA and as many residents that wanted to come to the library to discuss the problem. Because it had been dredged, but as Bruce said, every year more silt fills in. And so at that time, we had people come out, they looked at the blueprints of the dam, because they had, at that time, they said that we were a deficiency of a seat. That dam was deficient, it was a terrible thing. And after they looked at the blueprints, after they looked and you know, went down the list, tried to figure out an engineer, you know, had the engineer come. He studied the dam, he studied the sluice gate, he studied all of this. brought David in. David was part of the discussion too, with how can we manage this? And the state came up with, okay, you're not a C deficient dam, you're a B, which is much better, because they realized that it's structurally built very soundly. And, it's not gonna flood the town, it's not gonna, break. So the whole idea then was we had to have a management plan. Do a managed dredge, open the gate in the spring before they stock it with fish, when the water is high, and let some of that silt out, then close it. It would be opened again in the fall, so they had recommended, it was a whole sheet of 20 things to do. Who would be notified if there was a problem with the state? This whole thing, and a management plan was supposed to have been set up to take care of the dam issue. And then 2005 happened and the flood happened, and it never, the state was very willing to say, okay, anything that comes against the gate, you pick it up and take it out of there. As far as trees coming downstream and garbage. And and there was an automatic permit that you could dredge X amount per year on a 5-year period to try to get that silt addressed. And the state was willing to work with the town on that. And then it was in the works, everything was going fine, and then we had the flood. Everything was put on a different shelf, the silt is filled up, so you're back to square one again. But I think the state would be willing to work with the town on this. And the dam is structurally sound. it's a good dam. We paid X amount for an engineer to come in, and I think Linda can dig up the file on that. So there's a lot of information about it. And people, I think that it's important to have the gate open, and I don't think the state wants it open forever. They want it opened in the spring, and the fall year, there was a scheduled maintenance thing, and I'm sure somewhere that could be dug up as well.
Yeah, I'm getting a little confused because the warrant article we're discussing is to appropriate $25,000 to dredge, period, correct?
Actually, what we are discussing at the moment is an amendment to the warrant article, to amend the warrant article to $0. That is what is being discussed at the moment.
So that it may be open. It may be inoperable. And we're talking about taking the dam out, dredging by with the pool, opening the gate for a extended period of time. We're talking about $0 to dredge. Correct?
That is the motion on the floor. Tom?
Yeah, I have a question. What is the town's end game for Violet's Pool? Does the town, do the selectmen want to go back to a swimming place for people where people can use it, or do they just don't want to deal with it as a swimming place?
My current end game, speaking just for me, is what happened in 2005 happens again, except this time in our favor. And eventually, whatever yank they've got for dams all over the state, because it's not just us, and it's not just one dam. Let's not forget we have a letter of deficiency for Warren Dam as well, is that eventually the state just stop busting every little town about every little dam. That's why we've been slow walking it, quite honestly. But eventually, whatever was motivating this will go away, and the guys like John and the rest of his peers will get together and say, this is just two owners, you've got to stop.
But if we're not, if the water coming through that area isn't something that can harm the town, to Dan's point, and we're not going to open it up as a swimming area, why wouldn't we take the dam? I mean, I don't think the advantage of Violet's Pool is a swimming area for the town people. I mean, isn't that, I mean, it's a...
That's another debate for another day.
Well, no.